All righty. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining part three of our six-part webinar series on physical well-being presented by Affinity Federal Credit Union. Today's topic is sleep, the most underrated aspect of health. My name is Nicholas Vitaliano. I am the Wellbeing and Communication Specialist here at Affinity. Today's presenter and expert guest is Anthony Russomanno, founder of Russomanno Training LLC and personal health coach for exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, and the link to watch this presentation, again, will be shared with you all in a follow-up email that will be sent very soon. Also, if you have any questions that you would like to ask during the presentation, feel free to use the Q&A option on your panel, and we'll be more than happy to address them at the end of the webinar. Before we jump in, a quick disclosure. This information is for informational purposes only and is intended to provide general guidance and does not constitute medical advice. Each person or person's circumstances are different and may not apply to the specific information provided. You should seek the advice of a medical professional to discuss your specific needs before making any medical, dietary, or lifestyle commitments regarding the matters related to this webinar. Affinity is not affiliated, nor do they endorse or recommend any of the reference apps, websites, or companies and/or their products or services. Accordingly, Affinity takes no responsibility for the quality, reliability of the products or services offered by these apps, websites, or companies. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Nick. I appreciate it. I'm excited to jump into the third webinar of this sixth series. We covered nutrition, we covered movement and exercise, and today we're covering sleep. So if you want to watch the recordings on nutrition, on movement and exercise, please do so. They were awesome webinars, and we will jump into sleep. So today we're going to be focusing on why sleep is one of the most underrated aspects of health and how it could seriously change your life, as it has mine. Just as before we begin, I want to go through a reminder on our why. I mentioned this in the first webinar, in the second, and I'm going to mention it in the third. So if you have been to all of these webinars so far, thank you very much. You've seen this before, but I do want to emphasize it again. Our why and the reason that we have six webinars around health is for really all about longevity, right? But more specifically, I always emphasize increasing our health span versus our lifespan. Okay, so quick reminder for those terms. When I talk about lifespan, that is the chronological number of years we live. Health span, on the other hand, is the number of healthy years that we live, right? It's the quality of our years. And our overall why with all of these six webinars is to reduce what's called this health span lifespan gap. And that's those red bars that you see where it says 9.2 years. That's it. That's a very general average based on this study. However, we want to reduce that and increase our health span. All right, so today we are going to be going through three different things. We're going to be trying to get a good understanding on sleep. We're going to go through the reality of sleep deprivation, and then I'm going to leave you guys with a way to improve your sleep as well so that you can hopefully implement these tonight. All right, so before we jump into understanding sleep, I want to bring to light what the unfortunate reality of sleep in our society is and why I do really think it's one of the most underrated aspects of our health today. So again, you guys know, I mean, the classic saying is you can sleep when you're dead, and that is kind of the a good summary of how we all view sleep. But to really emphasize what really the detriments of our society with sleep are. We're going to go through a bunch of these so that you can keep these at the top of your mind as you try to improve your sleep over the course of the next, today, definitely, but over the next couple weeks and months. So first off, our society and sleep, caffeine. This is one of the biggest things that prevents us from getting tired and falling asleep efficiently. And we are a very, very caffeinated society. Next one would be alcohol. Alcohol suppresses our REM sleep, which we will get into, but that's going to impact our long-term memory, emotions, cognitive function, brain development, and brain restoration. Temperature. Now that we artificially control our environment in our houses, we are actually making it more difficult for our body to prepare for sleep. Another topic that we're going to touch on later as well. Modern light, again, artificial light in our houses, all over the place, even in major cities. This is going to alter our circadian rhythm. Another one we will go through, but this is definitely changing how efficiently we can sleep as well. Alarm clocks artificially terminating our sleep in an abrupt way is going to be a micro stressor and is going to impact our sleep as well and our just general health. And then finally, pills and supplementation. Many supplements and prescription drugs can also alter our sleep in a variety of ways. So you can see how, unfortunately, these very common things in our society today are impacting sleep. However, there are ways to work around this, and that is exactly what I want to get into today. So before we do so, let's get the general terms of sleep out of the way so that we can really know how to implement this and change around your sleep. All right, so to begin, we're going to start with the first term, and this is our circadian rhythm. This is essentially our body's internal 24-hour clock. And this is the reason that we naturally wake up or we naturally get tired. Everybody's clock is different, right? We have the classic night owls or the morning larks. However, all the things that I mentioned previously, and including our environment, can significantly change our circadian rhythm as well. Um, but however, this is one of the most important things when it comes to sleep. So we'll definitely come back to this as one of the major terms, but definitely something to keep in mind. Our circadian rhythm is our body's internal 24-hour clock. Going off of our circadian rhythm, I want to talk about the stages of sleep because this is going to be very important for understanding how sleep impacts us as well. Um, if you do a general Google search of the stages of sleep, you're going to see five different ones that can get pretty confusing and pretty difficult. So I'm going to try to keep it very simple for us today. We're going to focus on two stages and then I'm going to break them down a little bit. All right, so the first stage we are going to discuss is NREM, non-rapid eye movement. All right, and then if you see on this chart, this is going to be the left side, the light and the deep sleep. I like to refer to this stage as a reflection phase where we take everything that we have that happens when we're awake during the day, like experiences, facts, and skills, and we actually store them into our memory bank, right? This is what's going on in non-rapid eye movement phase of sleeping. Then, to break that down even further, NREM has two different types of sleep. We have light sleep, which is the first stage of NREM. This is where our heart rate begins to drop, our body temperature begins to drop, and it really prepares us for a good night of sleep. The second phase of NREM is going to be deep sleep. This is where that memory storage that I was mentioning previously with all the life experiences comes into play. But it's also responsible for repairing and rebuilding our body as well. So to really kind of understand an REM, light, deep sleep, I like to use a computer and hard drive analogy. And this is going to really be a good way to think about this. So if you think about a computer storage, this is going to be what is our short-term memory. So as you use your computer throughout the day, that storage fills up. And in order to save more files, we must make more room for it by transferring our computer files to a hard drive or nowadays just an online cloud drive. In this case, light sleep is our computer storage, right? Our short-term storage where we save our life experiences. Deep sleep is going to be the hard drive of the cloud that we can empty the computer storage from short term and save it forever in the long term, right? And in order to do this, we need both stages of sleep. We need light sleep and we need deep sleep. All right, and that's why we need to optimize both. So that is NREM, non-rapid eye movement. Some of the other essential reasons for getting quality NREM is going to be for regulating and optimizing our energy, hormones, immune system, and physical restoration as well. All right. REM, this is going to be the second stage of sleep that I want to touch on. REM is rapid eye movement. So you can see in these names, non-rapid eye movement versus rapid eye movement. It is quite literally in the name, right? Our eyes are moving rapidly in this stage in REM versus NREM, our eyes are not moving. So the reason that our eyes are moving in REM is because this is our dream wave, right? This is where our brain is activating and we're creating things within our head. So you can think about it that way. That's a good way that I think about it is rapid eye movement. Our eyes are moving, which means our brain is functioning in some way. REM, I like to refer to this stage as the integration phase, where we take those experiences from the day that I mentioned in NREM, and we actually connect them with other stored experiences for problem solving, for innovation, for adapting and learning new things. So, for example, if you've ever gone to sleep like trying to solve a problem or a situation at work, but for some reason in the morning when you woke up, you had that light bulb moment and it hit you. This is because of REM sleep. This is the innovation side of it, the problem side of it, where you're taking those experiences and bringing a different side to it. Other than memory for REM as well, it is absolutely essential for regulating and optimizing emotions, cognitive function, and brain development and restoration. All right, so that is their circadian rhythm. That is the stages of sleep. So we are now finally, the final topic I want to go through is the four components of sleep. All right, and then this will lead us into getting into the other two topics. So the four components of sleep, I like to call them QQRT. These are actually what I got from a awesome doctor, Dr. Matthew Walker. I can link all of his information out there, but he is one of the best doctors on sleep. I love his work, and this is actually a phrase that he uses that I wanted to share with you today. So he calls these four components basically the four macros of sleep, right? We have the macros of food, macronutrients. These are the four macros of sleep. And these are what determine whether you are truly getting good sleep or not, right? For the most part, many people think about their sleep and they think, okay, how many hours of sleep did I get? And that is actually going to be one of the components, so we'll touch on that. But it is way more than just the quantity of sleep. So let's start with that one, the quantity of sleep. This is going to be the first Q in our four components, and this is going to be the amount of hours you sleep, right? So the classic 7 to 9 hour recommendation. So that's going to be quantity. The second Q is going to be quality. Quality is how efficient did you sleep? Okay, so was your sleep continuous or did you wake up multiple times throughout the night? Did you get the necessary amount of variety of stages, right? We mentioned the importance of NREM and the importance of REM. So this is your efficiency of sleep, your quality of sleep. The third component for R is going to be regularity. Regularity is when you get to bed and when you wake up, right? Is that schedule regular? Do you have a sleep schedule that you're consistent with? And ideally, we want this to be within 30 to 60 minutes on a daily basis of 30, 60 minutes of when you go to bed and 30, 60-minute time frame of when you go to sleep. The more regular this is, the better your sleep will be as well. And then the fourth component of determining good sleep is going to be the T part, and this is the timing. This is referred to your chronotype, right? This is not timing in terms of how long you sleep or what time you go to sleep. This is timing in terms of are you sleeping aligned with your chronotype? As I mentioned in the beginning, we have the morning larks and we have the night owls, and we all have our own sleep timing, and we really want to align our sleep schedule with our chronotype. All right, so those are the four components of sleep: quantity, quality, regularity, and timing. Now we are going to jump into the reality of sleep deprivation. I want to go through these because this is something that I need to emphasize to really understand why we are focusing on sleep and why it is so underrated and underutilized. So if any of these scare you, I am sorry, but it may be a good thing because it is so important to focus on sleep. All right. So if we are not executing on those four macros of sleep that we just went through, then this is what could be happening. For simplicity's sake, we're just going to focus on the quantity of sleep here. You can see how it says less than 6 hours, but all the other components are just as important as well in sleep deprivation. So going through these, if you are getting less than 6 hours of sleep or consistently failing to achieve any of the other components that we mentioned, here's what could be happening. Cardiovascular health. If we are sleep deprived, we are going to be causing an increase in our heart rate and an increase in our blood pressure as well. It's going to build plaque around our arteries, and we are going to have an overactivation of our sympathetic nervous system due to the lack of deep sleep. This is going to cause a constriction of our blood vessels. That's why our heart rate increases and our blood pressure increases, and we do not obviously want that. So impacting cardiovascular health is significant here. Secondly, sleep deprivation causes type 2 diabetes and insulin sensitivity. And the reason for this is because our cells become less receptive to insulin and refuses to take the sugar in our blood from our diet, and it just sits in our bloodstream and it is not good, and that is what leads to potentially type 2 diabetes because of the increase in blood sugar. So type 2 diabetes risk and insulin sensitivity will be the second one. Third one, weight gain and obesity. So sleep deprivation directly affects our hunger and satiating hormone. These are called ghrelin and leptin, respectively. So they're actually going to cause you to feel more hungry. You're going to crave more, but also when you do eat, you're going to be less satiated. So within an hour or two, you're just going to get hungry and cravings again. Um, the second part to the weight gain and obesity is that when we are sleep deprived, I'm going to touch on this in a later one, but we actually can't make logical decisions as well either. So it's very hard to say no to that cookie or that cake because we're sleep deprived and we're relying on emotional decision making. Next is our reproductive system. For women, this could be including irregular menstrual cycle, issues with fertility, and a drop in a hormone called follicular releasing hormone, which is responsible for reproduction. For men, significant drop in testosterone leading to poor sperm production and poor sperm health. So huge impact on reproductive system as well. Immune system. So if you remember, deep sleep restores our body and removes those bad chemicals and pathogens. But most importantly, it removes cancer cells. And that is the biggest thing, and why we want sleep. We want that remover of cancer cells. However, with sleep deprivation, it actually accumulates it and we cannot remove them. Then we have brain function. Brain function for this, when we are sleep deprived, our emotional activity significantly increases, right? This means we are less logical, going back to the weight gain and obesity where we're making bad decisions, but it also increases our emotions of aggression, violence, addiction, and other mental health disorders as well. Some of those being Alzheimer's, dementia, anxiety, depression, and many more. And then finally, genes and DNA, it all the way down to this level. Sleep deprivation shuts down the transcription of DNA, which is the reason we are alive today. So going through all of these, I know these are a little bit scary and intense, but it does paint a picture of why sleep is so important and why I'm going to be going through ways that you can improve your sleep tonight. However, I want to emphasize when we're talking about improving our sleep, this is a major work in progress, right? With nutrition and exercise, that's something that you can do right away and execute right away. Not easy, but something that you can. With sleep, it's going to take some time. You can't just sleep absolutely perfect tonight, hitting all four components of quality sleep. It's going to take time, doing one thing at a time, changing your environment around. So I wanted to emphasize that before we jump into these, so you know that it's going to be a long-term fix. However, ways to improve our sleep. All right, I want you guys to focus on what's important because there are many things out there, right? Many things that we can do, and it can get overwhelming. And let's put it this way, the more overwhelming it is, the worse your sleep is actually going to get. All right, so let's focus on what's important. The first thing that's most important is your habits around sleep. All right, this includes your sleep schedule, right? What time you're going to bed, what time you're going to wake up. Are you consistent with that schedule? And does it make sense for your routine and your routine, your circadian rhythm, and your biological clock? All right, alongside with habits around sleep. What are you consuming? Are you consuming caffeine, alcohol, large meals, anti-sleep medications? Those are all going to affect it, as we mentioned previously. And then what are you doing before bed? Are you unwinding or are you doing stress-related activities like work or scrolling on the phone? Are you using electronics? These are some of the habits around sleep that you could focus on. All right. The next thing would be your sleep environment. And we're gonna touch on these as well, but Sleep environment including light, temperature, noise, and other distractions as well. We mentioned how those are all affected on circadian rhythm. So this brings it back full circle of how those are affecting your sleep, but also how we can fix them as well. Right. So that's what I want you to focus on. Habits around sleep and sleep environment. So I came up with these 12 tips so that you can dominate your sleep. It is an extensive list, and let me emphasize this again. There are 12 of these. That's a lot. I don't expect you to do all of them. All I want you to do is take a look at them, see what makes it most reasonable in this time, and then go one at a time. But some of these include, like I mentioned, and some of these are going to be repeated, sticking to that consistent sleep schedule, exercising, but not too late, avoiding caffeine, avoiding alcohol, avoiding medications that may disrupt sleep. You can take a picture of this list, go through it. However, these are going to be 12 things that you can try doing one at a time to improve your sleep tonight and moving forward. So I will leave this picture up for a little bit before I show you all the resources so you can take a picture, take a screenshot. Um, However, I will open the floor for any questions that you guys have because I know sleep and all those terms can get a little complicated. So please feel free to throw any questions you have in the Q&A and I will answer as many as they come in.
All right, looks like we have one that just came in. You said you don't lie in bed awake. What would you suggest? Do I read? Turn on the light?
Yeah, so I assume this means if you can't fall asleep or if you wake up in the middle of the night. So what I would suggest, and there's a couple suggestions, but what I would suggest first and foremost is what not to do. What I wouldn't do is turn on the light, do anything that messes with the circadian rhythm, like we were mentioning. So that's going to be light, that's going to be electronic use, and that's going to be anything that's going to activate any stress related things, right? So some good ways if you can't sleep, some things that I do is first off, before I even think about getting out of bed, which will be a later suggestion, I will either read a book or I will actually do some breathing exercises. For me, breathing exercises are an awesome way to kind of relax my mind, reset, recoup. However, if none of those are working and you need to get out of bed, that's totally okay. You can go sit in a chair, grab a book and sit in a chair, grab a book and just sit there and relax. But I would try to avoid any stress related activities or any light and anything like that that's going to mess with your circadian rhythm.
Does everyone need more than 6 hours of sleep?
So this is where the QQRT comes into play, which is why the four components are so important because I would say yes, you definitely want more than 6 hours of sleep. And the reason being is because you want enough time to be able to get that quality of sleep that we were talking about, right? The quality of sleep is so important with NREM, with REM. And the more hours of sleep that you can get, the more hours of you are sleeping under 6 hours, you are mostly in light sleep. And when you're in light sleep, you're not tapping into deep sleep and you're not tapping into REM sleep for those benefits on memory, cognitive function, so on and so forth.
All right, we have another one here. Thank you so much for this information. Is there any correlation between sleep and weight loss?
Love this question. And yes, and before I get into that too, actually a fun fact, I don't know if everyone knew this, but the way we actually lose body fat, it actually we breathe it out through CO2. So we're quite literally breathing out our fat when we sleep. So just a fun fact that I was fascinated about when I learned. Um, However, yes, sleep is so important for fat loss because of all of these benefits in deep sleep and REM sleep. When we get into sleep, specifically deep sleep, it is completely restoring and resetting our body. And from all the way from a hormonal level, I mean, it can go on and on. but it is absolutely essential. And when I do my coaching, it is one of my main focuses on top of nutrition and exercise in order to burn body fat.
All right. Alcohol before bed. Why is just one drink bad before bed?
Yeah, so definitely not the best because of a couple of things. One, alcohol is one of the biggest suppressors of our stages of sleep as well. So I was mentioning we have the light sleep, deep sleep, and REM. When we drink alcohol, and this is also with caffeine as well, we're not able to tap into this deep sleep and REM sleep stage, right? So we're not getting that restoration. We're not getting all of those benefits. Um, if you are going to have one drink of alcohol before bed, you really want to have at least 2 hours before bed, especially if it's one drink. One drink we can metabolize and get rid of within an hour to 2 hours, depending on the person, of course. But it is that is the main reason is because even one drink in order to metabolize that alcohol, it's going to mess with those stages of sleep.
How does snoring impact quality of sleep?
Oh, great question. So don't know too much in terms of why we snore and the reasons we snore because there is so much out there. In terms of the quality, I would say it comes down to just breathing. If your snoring is because of a breathing issue and you're not getting enough oxygen in and CO2 out, that could affect the quality of sleep. However, in terms of it just really depends on the type of snoring as well. So I don't have a direct answer for that, but if I had to say, it would impact it just from again, breathing mechanics, maybe even noise mechanics, that kind of that side of things.
Is there any optimal temperature to sleep in?
Yes, great question. So the optimal temperature is actually 65 to 68 degrees. And this is because, like I mentioned before, one of the biggest indicators for falling asleep is dropping our core body temperature. And we actually need to drop our core body temperature by 2 degrees, which is why sometimes the artificial temperature control that we have in our houses, it could affect this. But yes, 65 to 68 degrees where you're a little chilly before to go to bed. Look, I don't want you to be cold. I don't want you to have to completely bundle up, but you do want to be a little chilly so that you can keep that core body temperature low throughout the night.
All right, another question here. I wake up in the middle of the night around the same time every night. What can I do to stay asleep?
Great question. So this is a tough one because there are many factors to this. Some of those factors that could coming into it are all the things that we mentioned previously about what our society on sleep is. So I'll really say starting with those to avoid any of those, because a lot of those cause that waking up in the middle of the night because it's messing with our circadian rhythm. The other thing I would focus on is nutrition and exercise. Nutrition and eating clean and healthy food, getting your micronutrients, your vitamins and minerals in. These also have a significant impact on our quality of sleep. So I would say start with the things that you can take away, the society stuff, and then also implementing good nutrition and good exercise as well.
Should we avoid watching television in bed and use the bed for only sleep?
Love this again. Yes. The one of the biggest ways that you can optimize your sleep is only using your bed for sleep. Creating that relationship with your bed and just your sleep is so important because your body when your body learns many things and when we only use our bed for sleep, it knows that when we lay down, it is time to go to bed versus sometimes when we lay down, we watch TV, we scroll on our phones. Well, it's not creating that relationship, that routine, and that's one of the best things for our circadian rhythm. So if you can only make not only your bed, but your bedroom, trying just to be the sleep environment. So if you do watch TV, which try to not to within an hour. I know it's really difficult. One of the things that I've been working on that I've gotten down now, but it took a little bit. I would try to watch it downstairs or in a different room and then go on up and then go to sleep. So yes, I think that would be very important.
Is there such a thing as oversleep?
Oh, great question. So there is definitely, but it's so person depending because everyone requires a different amount of sleep. I would say unless you're sleeping over like 12 to 14 hours consistently, that would be my number. That isn't a number that I've seen in research or anything. I just think that that may be the number, but not too much that I know of in terms of oversleep. Just because of that, if you have a regular circadian rhythm, your body should naturally wake you up and it should naturally get you tired. So if you are oversleeping, probably something to look into with maybe potentially having some other condition. But I don't know too much about oversleeping. My number would be over 12 hours is maybe too much for some people.
Got another one here. Just want to say thank you for this presentation. I can't think of a question right now, but would it be okay to reach out by email if a question springs to mind?
Absolutely. Please email. It works great. You can message me on social media. Any way that you can contact me, fire away questions. You can also, if you join my Facebook community, you can message me there as well. So many ways to reach me, and please do not hesitate to ask questions. I love that.
Got it. How much does waking through the night to go to the bathroom affect your sleep?
Yes, I love this one, right? Because we want to try to get in our water for the day. So yeah, so I would say a going to the bathroom 1 to 2 times throughout the night is totally okay if you're as long as you're going to the bathroom and you're going right back to sleep. If you're struggling going back to sleep after going to the bathroom, that's definitely something we want to think about. And some ways to avoid that would be to stopping your water intake about an hour or two before bed. Very difficult, especially for me, because I'm always drinking water. But if you overload your water intake, so you hit your goal earlier in the day, that way you can prevent getting up in the middle of the night. I would say 1 to 2 times is normal. If it gets to three, four, that's definitely something you want to think about.
Pre-diabetic here. I'm up every 2 hours. How can I get more rest?
Mm. So this is a very specific question, which I love. But again, the specific questions have a lot going into it. So what I would say is biggest thing that you can do for more rest is actually focus on all the other aspects of health that we're mentioning. Nutrition, exercise, right? Those are going to significantly impact the pre-diabetes, which is also going to significantly impact your sleep. So really focusing on all things health I think would be the biggest for that because the importance and the amount those can impact the pre-diabetes and impact your sleep and impact your health overall is tremendous. So I would say really focus on the basics of exercise, of nutrition, and don't even focus on the sleep right now. You can just focus on those two because those are going to go hand in hand and help you with sleep later down the road as well.
Should I keep my cell phone on my nightstand or keep it out of the room when I go to sleep?
I love this. So I would recommend if you can keep it out of your room, that's obviously best. But if you unfortunately use an alarm, because I know it's the unfortunate reality that we do on your nightstand where you can reach it. For me, I actually put it on my desk across the room so that I can't actually grab it. But if you have the discipline not to grab it, then you can totally put it on your nightstand. The goal is just not to look at it ideally within that hour, but as long as you can before you go to sleep.
Using white noise to fall asleep. Yes or no?
Yeah, so I think I haven't done much research on noise and white noise, but the simple answer is as long as the noise doesn't impact your sleep, because it is calming and it's nice and soothing sometimes, especially if you live in a city, it might distract the other noises that go on. Those kind of noises are very good. Some people don't get good quality sleep, so it's definitely person to person. But if you are one that gets better sleep with it, totally.
Can exercise too close to bedtime have an impact on your sleep quality?
Yeah, so one of the tips in there you'll see is to try to prevent exercising within 2 to 3 hours before bed. And this is the reason for this is because your rush, your go, your adrenaline system. And it takes a little bit for that to come down. So 2 to 3 hours gives it enough time for you go from sympathetic, you're rushing around to your parasympathetic, which is your resting nervous system.
Could you talk a bit about how sleep is related to muscle recovery?
Yeah, so love this. So, in terms of muscle recovery, so when we're talking about muscle recovery, what we're really talking about is repairing these micro tears that happen when we do exercise, right? So, whether we're doing cardiovascular training, resistance training, what's happening is we're creating these little micro tears in our muscle fiber, not a tear like we think on a tendon or anything. These are actually good and healthy micro tears. But however, in order to repair those micro tears, sleep is so important because what we can do is we can actually remove some of those toxic chemicals and those things that we don't want sitting around the muscle that the muscle actually accumulates when it tears like that. And then that way the good nutrients, that is one of the biggest things so that we can repair those little muscle fiber tears, which end up leading into muscle growth and muscle repair.
Regardless of the hours of sleep I get, I always struggle in the morning with feeling rested and getting up. Any advice to making mornings easier?
hmm Yeah, so a couple things with this. Number one would be this could be your circadian rhythm and your chronological clock. So this could be that you may be a night owl where you're not suited well for the morning, and you're trying to fight against your natural circadian rhythm. Again, this is a lot easier said than done because we have obligations, we have work to do, but really trying to go to bed and wake up around your chronological clock is one of the things that you could try doing. However, if that's not the case, another suggestion would could be nutrition could significantly impact if you're tired in the in the morning, right? For example, if you are getting up and you are having a meal that has more sugar, more carbs, and you're getting tired within 30 minutes to an hour after, that is a pretty good indicator that it may not be your sleep and it could be actually nutrition as well. So what I would also suggest is, especially for the morning, trying to have a protein-rich meal like eggs, like any animal proteins, so that you're not having this sugar crash, you're not having this carb crash, and then you can actually hopefully stay awake as well. So those are a couple things.
Alarm clocks, any particular sound?
Yeah, so I would try to do one that is soothing, not the classic one that we know of that is on our phones and just is blaring. Anything that is not blaring. If you can find a nice soothing song, and one that actually over time increases, right? So if you need to set your alarm a little before because it's gonna take like a minute for the sound to actually start waking you up, that's totally okay and a good strategy because then it's going to naturally wake you up where it's gonna be a nice and slow and soothing wake versus a very abrupt one. The whole goal of the alarm clock is one that doesn't cause that micro stress, and that's what those soothing alarm clocks would do.
Is it okay to read the hour before bed?
Yes, definitely. And this is something that I love to do because one, it gets me off my phone, gets me off electronics, but also it puts me to sleep as well. So reading is actually one of my favorite habits to do at night because it really gets me to go to sleep quicker.
We have another question here. I heard that eating a little protein before bed, like a handful of nuts, could help improve sleep. Is it true?
I would say it is true depending on the person. I would say for protein wise, it could and protein and the fats from the nuts would help you in terms of keeping you full, keeping you satiated, so you prevent any hunger related wakings throughout the night. However, in terms of specifically protein and fats for sleeping, the research is very limited and kind of back and forth. But I would say the main thing with that is so that you stay.
Think we lost Anthony for a second.
Oh, am I here still?
Yeah, we just lost you for just a second.
Where did I lose you?
Um, we were talking about the feeling full before bed, due to the
Yeah.
protein.
So I would say for protein, the research is minimal on the benefits there. So I would say if the main reason to do it is to keep you full throughout the night so you don't wake up from hunger. But the research is just not very convincing on protein specifically or fat specifically.
Is reading a Kindle okay?
Great question. So I know there's a couple versions of Kindle. I think there is one, and I can definitely look into this, but there's one where it's actually not like a light, like an electronic light, like a blue light, and it's more of like a little screen. Those were okay, and I'm sure they're definitely going to emphasize them, so you can definitely look into them. But I would say any of them that aren't like an electronic screen that has blue light.
Awesome. All right, let's see if there's any other questions that come in. How can I access the previous webinar recordings? Um, we will send those over to you. If you want to drop your email in the chat, I'll be able to send those over to you right away. And then we have, what about music to sleep?
hmm Love this. So this is very similar to the sound waves as well. As long as it's very soothing, it isn't causing any stress, and it's actually helping your quality of sleep. I'm totally for it. We really just want to limit any of that brain activation, because that's what's going to prevent our sleep. So if it's soothing for you, if it's instrumental, definitely recommend it.
Perfect. Looks like that's all the questions for right now. Let's see if any more come in. Another question, melatonin or scented candles?
hmm So scented candles I'll touch on first because this is similar to the sound again. If it doesn't affect your sleep negatively and it helps you go to sleep, all for it, right? I haven't looked into the research on scented candles, but I could tell you it's very similar to the other music question. Um, in terms of melatonin, this is very important. So one of the biggest things with melatonin is that if you are not consistently using it and relying on it, melatonin can actually be beneficial for sleep. However, if you are consistently using it and needing it every single night, this is where it could become a problem, and I would definitely recommend you trying to solve this because what happens is your body is going to get so used to that melatonin that when you don't have it, it cannot get a regular night's of sleep because it's so used to having the melatonin. So I would say if you're using melatonin, you really want to use it on certain situations, like if you're traveling, going to a different time zone. Um, but not using it consistently would be my recommendation.
Perfect. That looks like all the questions for today. Um, let me actually have one more. To avoid being disrupted due to other noise around, is it okay to use earplugs?
Yes, definitely, especially in cities. Earplugs and then the sound waves that I was talking about as well. And this goes into just as long as those earplugs aren't annoying to you and bothering you, because as long as they're not, then you're still getting that good quality sleep. Totally, because we want to try to prevent all that noise as possible.
Awesome. Well, that looks like it's it for everyone today. Thank you everyone for joining today. Thank you, Anthony, for sharing all the amazing information.
Mhm.
We will be sending out a follow-up email with the recording. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Anthony. We look forward to seeing you at part 4 of our series, mental health, creating a healthy mindset and managing stress. Thank you and have a great rest of your night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.